This is the film about the interference in our great British democracy by the Russian secret state and its proxy oligarchs and dirty Russian money, and the failure of British politicians, especially from the governing Conservative Party, to do very much to stop it.
Welcome to Kiev's latest tourist attraction. This is just some of the Russian killing machine that got smashed up in the Battle of Kiev. But more's a pity, there's a lot more of this in the south and east of Ukraine, and it's still very much in working order. Still, the Ukrainians are fighting like tigers to defend their democracy, and they're doing pretty well. And they're very grateful to one particular foreign leader who stood with them to the hilt at the very start of the big war back in February. His name is Boris Johnson. Fair enough, you might say. But Boris Johnson is big pals with a former KGB spy. And that friendship isn't funny ha-ha. It's funny peculiar. Kiev's famous TV tower. In early March, the Russians launched 2 missiles to try and bring it down. They failed in that, but they did kill 5 civilians. I was there when the bodies of a mother and a child and an old man were taken away. The Kremlin's war against the United Kingdom is more insidious than its war against Ukraine, but it's no less real. The Russian secret state was very keen on seeing Donald Trump enter the White House. Likewise, the Russian secret state was very keen on Britain voting for Brexit. The Russians wanted to know what was NATO's reaction to the Salisbury poisonings. The Russians wanted to know what was going on inside of the mind of our then Foreign Secretary. The Russians wanted to know everything he knew.
Enter Yevgeny Lebedev, playboy son of a billionaire oligarch. By the way, he doesn't like it if you call him that. So what makes Yevgeny Lebedev important? Well, in 2009, he bought the London Evening Standard. A year later, he bought the Independent newspaper.
Yevgeny Lebedev became effectively the Lebedev family's #1 an owner, organizer, runner of that property.
I never knew I'd be involved in journalism in the way I'm involved now, no. Having acquired Novaya Gazeta in Russia, I spent some time in the newspaper, learned about it, but never knew that I would be involved in journalism in this country.
You wouldn't be involved in journalism if you were poor?
It's an interesting question. I never thought about that.
Who is this wannabe Rupert Murdoch, this new kid on the press baron block? The thing about Yevgeny, he's not famous for his passion for journalism, but his bunga parties.
Every title has been, every description I think has been pushed on Yevgeny. He's been playboy, kind of more interested in fun than anything serious. The son of a wealthy Russian whose fortune at one point I think was estimated to be 4 billion. But The Independent is effectively his first major role so far in a short life.
Who does he hang out with, Yevgeny?
If we're describing Yevgeny's friends, it would be difficult to describe any day of his life that didn't involve the glitterati. You name a name from the higher echelons of Britain's theatre and cinema, and at one point they'll have spent time with Yevgeny. So, like any rich, wealthy patron, Yevgeny is a popular figure. And I think one story, I suppose, illustrates it. I think there was a gathering of the great and the good for some ceremony or another. Everybody that you would like to mention would be there. And I think the master of ceremonies was Stephen Fry. A packed room went dark suddenly, and then people moved to the side of the room because this was heavily choreographed. Stephen Fry began to describe the person that they were going to give an award to, and a single spotlight came down on top of Yevgeny Lebedev, and the room applauded a man who described as one of the saviours, one of the most important people in Britain's theatre life.
So what's this got to do with British democracy? Well, as the owner of the Evening Standard, Yevgeny dropped the cover price, making it free. Circulation tripled overnight. Yevgeny Lebedev had just bought himself a ton of influence. One man benefited from this manoeuvre, a British politician on the make.
Boris Johnson likes Yevgeny Lebedev so much he's made him a lord, Baron Siberia.
Her heirs and successors according to law.
His general election victory party was held at the Lebedev's home in central London at Portland Place. But it wasn't just Boris Johnson's party. It was also the 60th birthday bash of Yevgeny's father, Alexander Lebedev. Sources close to MI5, Britain's security service, say there is a problem with Boris Johnson's friendship with the Lebedevs. It's not so much with the son, but with the father.
Are you friends with Boris Johnson?
I'm not friends with him, but I know him. Maybe Jenna is friends with him.
The Russian Revolution was made in the name of communism, but very soon it was about the secret police thing called the Cheka, killing people. Under Lenin, they killed thousands. Under Stalin, they killed millions. In 1953, Stalin dies, and the secret police gets a new name, the KGB. Old dog, old tricks, and some new ones too. For the next 40 years, the KGB, in English it means the Committee for State Security, becomes the iron fist of the Russian state. They use what they call active measures. And to you and me, that means things going from eavesdropping to funding critical groups in Western democracies, to spying, to murder. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the KGB was rebranded, but there was a window of daylight when information came out about what they'd been up to. And one word came up again and again: compromat. Compromat comes from the Russian for compromising material. It means that the Russian secret state have managed to film somebody having sex with somebody they shouldn't be having sex with. And the targets: politicians, diplomats, spies, whoever. Remember, Donald Trump was in the headlines because a former British spy called Christopher Steele reported that the Russian secret state had filmed Trump in a hotel room in Moscow. Now, Trump has denied it ever happened, but if it did happen, then that was a classic case of compromat.
In 1998, the then president of Russia, Boris Yeltsin, had a problem. He and his family were being investigated for corruption by Russia's prosecutor general, Yuri Skaratov.
In 1999, Alexander Lebedev and a former business associate fell out. Lebedev said that this guy had swindled him and his bank of $7 million. The guy denied it and filed a complaint against Lebedev and the bank to the Russian prosecutor general, Yuri Skaratov. Skaratov started investigating Lebedev and his bank. Lebedev hates it. He writes about this, very angry in his book. And then something happens. Video of somebody looking very much like Yuri Skaratov appears with two prostitutes half his age. Compromat. And the third man who comes in and tells Russia this is the prosecutor general is Vladimir Putin.
Мое мнение по этому вопросу известно. Оно соответствует мнению президента и премьер-министра страны Юрия.
The compromat was the end of Yuri Skaratov and his investigations. Who was responsible? We don't know. But we do know that there were multiple beneficiaries. Number one, Vladimir Putin. He ended up getting the keys to the Kremlin. And the second beneficiary was Alexander Lebedev. Welcome to Perugia. 3,000 years of history written in stone. This place has been my hometown apart from London for the past 5 years. But we're not interested in this great city, but something over there. They call it the Russian mountain. In April 2018, passengers flying from here, Perugia Airport, to London were surprised to be joined by a very familiar figure. The person in question looked dishevelled, as if he'd spent the night on the tiles, and that's what he explained he'd been up to fellow passengers. And who are we talking about? Well, at the time, the man was the Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson. Now, what was weird was he was traveling on his own. There was no Metropolitan Police protection. He didn't even have any luggage. So, what's the story behind the story of this strange sighting? What had Boris Johnson been up to in Perugia? So it's called La Montaña dei Russi. And the reason for that is that this side, the southern side of the mountain, is owned by the Lebedevs, father and son, and the far side is owned by the Yakunin family. And the Yakunins, they used to own Russian railways, and Old Man Yakunin was a major general in the KGB. The south side, Lebedev Sr. was a colonel in the KGB. The whole mountainside is owned by former KGB officers. That's why they call it the Russian Mountain. So we've got hold of an Italian government intelligence report, and that notes the fact that Alexander Lebedev was a colonel in the KGB and raises doubts whether he's ever truly left that organization. And it suggests that he is to this day a Russian spy.
Alexander Lebedev was a colonel coming from the KGB in London, and this is a very well-known fact. Alexander Lebedev always said that his experience, his story with the KGB stops in the mid-90s when he became a banker. The report says the parties in Umbria were not just party, but in Italian party a luci rosse, a red light with starlet, with very young women.
If it's a red light party, then there's a possibility that the former KGB officer like Alexander Lebedev could be using sex compromat, could be doing a sex compromat operation. Is that impossible?
I don't think this is impossible, and I also think that this is the tone of the report. The Italian intel writes openly that the operation of Lebedev in Umbria are not only a real estate operation, but are operation linked to action of espionage and interference. And they say literally espionage. This is a word in the report. Who is this Alexander Lebedev? What the hell he's doing in Italy? What is this castle or these two castles he possesses in Umbria?
But going back to the actual 1992, that's when he officially leaves the KGB. Does the report, the Italian intelligence report, agree that he quits the KGB in 1992 cleanly? That's the end, goodbye.
They write that he started a career as a banker. They don't say a proxy, but they say, of course, you cannot be a banker if you are really hated and fighted from the Kremlin. This is absolutely impossible.
What does Vladimir Putin say about if you're in the Russian secret services?
Our sources in the Italian intelligence literally says, you never quit from the KGB. You are a dead man if you try to quit the KGB.
This stuff, if you do it in Russia, you can die. And I have met 3 people who I very much liked, who were critical of the former boss of the Russian secret state, Vladimir Putin, before he became president. And they were Anna Politkovskaya, Natasha Estemirova, and Boris Nemtsov. And they were shot, and shot. And I've met Navalny too, and he's been poisoned, survived, now he's in jail. So you don't mess about with these people if the allegations are true, but it is fair and proper in an open society like Britain or Italy for me to ask the question. We've seen this Italian intelligence report. It says effectively, Mr. Alexander Lebedev, you are a Russian spy. Is that true? And for the moment, there is no answer to my question. And that, to me, is troubling. I'm a storyteller, and the best stories, in my experience, are the stories that powerful people, power and money, do not want told. So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to find out what happens. Let's be honest, I do feel a little bit afraid. Boris Johnson is so thick with the Lebedevs, father and son, that he's come here on several occasions to party. Now this is Yevgeny Lebedev's place, the Palazzo Terranova.
When people ask what happens there, it's probably easier if you answer saying what doesn't happen there. Somebody said it's like a country party where the rules that normally apply don't apply. When people describe Yevgeny Lebedev as the ringmaster of what they ask, and I suppose you have to have been to one of these parties to know how far they go. Now, the assumption when people say no rules apply, I mean rules of what? Decorum, sexual activity, the drink that you want. Well, I mean, imagine a party without rules, and maybe you'll get there.
The thing is, this neck of the woods is being watched very closely by Italian intelligence, by European counter-espionage, and who knows, by the Russian secret state too. Do you think that power, so for example, politicians like Boris Johnson in London, they are in danger of being compromised by the Russian secret state?
What seems to me very strange is that a Western Prime Minister, not just a British one or a French one, comes in Italy with no agents, with no public statements, all alone.
He was Foreign Secretary at the time.
Yes, yes.
But even so, he was Foreign Secretary, yes. And as Foreign Secretary, he was in charge of MI6.
Yes, exactly.
So,
and
is that normal?
This is not normal, and I think that what's weird is that you make a country which is your friend, your ally, like Italy, a potential complicit. The matter has been not silenced, but ignored from the government in Italy, because it's embarrassing also for Italy, because all this happens on the Italian soil. So it seems like we are an haven for Russian operations. We have been very, very warm, not just with Russian money and flood of capitals, but also with Russian actions. And the actions often are very important and potentially damaging than money itself. This is my view.
A big question of our time is, has there been interference by the Russian secret state into our great British democracy? So you're asking me whether the Lebedevs know I'm here, I'm in town? Yeah, for sure, for sure. Listen, you know, some days ago I sent old man Lebedev, Alexander Lebedev, an email saying I'm working for Byline TV and we've got a hold of an Italian intelligence report which says that you're a Russian spy. Effectively, that is a heavy allegation.
There it is again.
Okay, close the door.
What do you think this is?
So it's a large black van, and it appears to be following us. And what happened was that we were blocking the road. We moved aside, and then he's sat and waited, and now he's come back, and he's talking to my pal Ludo.
Is it a concern?
Well, it's not a concern, but because all we're doing is going about our lawful business. It's a bit odd. It's fair to say that the other side seem to be interested in us. I mean, so the problem is, this is the only road. You know, this is the only road up to this place, up to the castle. As we were filming, there was a family of four, two middle-aged man and wife and two teenage kids coming down, and they hang back in a way. They seem very wary of us, in a way that if you're a classical holiday makers, you'd be curious about people making telly. You wouldn't kind of hold back. Anyway, as they walked past us, I think somebody's Apple phone started talking, and we thought they were talking in Russian. A couple of days ago, I sent Alexander Lebedev an email asking him effectively, are you a Russian spy? I set him a deadline. Please reply to my question by 12 noon London time. It's 1 p.m. Italian time, and I'm looking at the watch right now. It's 2:15 here in Italy. And the thing is, there's been no reply. So, yes, hi, hello, my name is John Sweeney and I'm from Byline TV, and I've sent an email to Alexander Lebedev a couple of days ago, and he hasn't replied. My question is, well, my question to you is your boss a Russian spy? We've got hold of an Italian government intelligence report which says that Alexander Lebedev is effectively a Russian spy. So the call's been cut. So let's remember that Alexander Lebedev and his son Yevgeny own The Independent and the Evening Standard, and a newspaper in Russia. So they're media barons. And this is how they communicate with independent journalists. By not answering our question.
Nice.
I've been trying to get to the bottom of all of this for 4 long years. And we've been met by silence from the Lebedevs. From legal challenges and a kind of pretty studied lack of interest from the mainstream media, as if they couldn't give a damn. It took a war for some of the truth to come out.